There has been a walkout featuring doctors in the state of Florida, and the protest is all about those who refuse to get vaccinated. According to the HuffPost reporting on this, about 75 frustrated doctors staged a pre-sunrise walkout on Monday from several southern Florida hospitals to call out people who are refusing to be vaccinated. And there's a good reason for them to be doing this. The entire state of Florida right now is a hot spot for coronavirus. In fact, we just covered a story in Orlando where the local officials there are urging residents to reduce their use of water so they have enough water to provide oxygen to the patients who are currently hospitalized there. Now, one of the doctors who took part in this walkout said, quote, "We're exhausted, our patience and resources are running low." And he represents hospitals in Palm Beach County that are incredibly overwhelmed and are facing a state of emergency. Juniper Medical Center emergency room doctor Ethan Chapin lamented the number of people that I'm going to see today who I don't need to, who don't need to be there, who shouldn't have been there in the first place if they'd taken the simple advice of getting vaccinated. He also says, all we're asking is, in the same way you trusted us to take care of you, your family, your friends, trust us now in what we're telling you. The vaccine is safe and it can save your life. And by the way, as was recently reported this week, Pfizer has now been given full approval by the FDA. So for anyone who was claiming that they were resistant to the vaccine because it was only authorized through emergency use, it now has full approval, the Pfizer vaccine specifically. And real quick, just so you understand the severity of the problem in the state of Florida, more than 150,000 people in Florida tested positive for COVID-19 in the week that ended Friday, as Republican Governor Ron DeSantis, of course, continued to battle mask mandates and refused to push for vaccinations.
So a couple of things here. First, on the doctors, I mean, how does your heart not go out to them? So they could have had almost no cases, and they could have been treating their patients on all the other issues, cancer, heart attacks, etc. Instead, they're overwhelmed and further exposed to the disease. Now, we all know that if you got the vaccine, you could still get sick. Now, luckily, it's in overwhelming majority of the cases not too severe, but you can get sick and you can give it to your kids. And they got to deal with that risk nonstop because these people come in and go, no, I don't believe any doctor. Then why are you in the hospital? You didn't believe the doctors ahead of time when they told you to take the vaccine. They're all telling you. You believe in a worldwide conspiracy of all the doctors in the world lying to you. And nobody in the press ever says it clearly enough because they're so afraid to offend the feelings of Republican voters. If you think all the doctors in the world are doing a conspiracy to lie to you in unison about the vaccine, you're cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs. You've lost your goddamn mind and you don't even know it. You need to seek mental health as well as physical health. So now you put those doctors and nurses in jeopardy, and then after you get the vaccine, after you get the coronavirus, then you turn around and go, help, help. What happened? I thought you didn't believe in doctors. Why don't you go home? Go home, don't infect them. Don't endanger them. I thought it wasn't real. No, of course not. No, no, I want to call you all liars, and then as soon as I'm in trouble, beg you for help. Okay, I get it. That's how it works. Well, because the right wing doesn't care if you died. They don't care about that at all. But when it affects them, oh my God, it's about me. I mean, we have 1,000 examples. Phil Valentine, conservative talk show host for decades in America, and one of the larger conservative talk show hosts. And he did a joke parody of Taxman from the Beatles, called it Vaxman, like vaccines. Who would take a vaccine? And he said, I'm not gonna take one anyway because what are the chances that I get sick? Well, it turns out the chances were pretty high. He got sick and he died. And his family was out there and he put out a statement before he died saying, my bad, you should have taken the vaccine. Well, you're right, and I appreciate that. So since he said that at the end, I'm not trying to beat him up too much. And obviously, I feel bad for his family who was heartbroken over it. But he lied to a lot of people. Now his family is pretending that he wasn't anti-vaccine.
Oh, come on.
Come on, guys.
Come on.
We saw the parody song. We read the quotes where he said he isn't likely to get sick. Well, he wasn't technically anti-vaccine. He wasn't pro-vaccine either. No, he was discouraging on purpce all of his listeners. How many of Phil Valentine's listeners died? How many of them died? Because they listened to him. And now he's dead. But it doesn't matter, almost nothing gets through, except the family now says, oh, oops, should have taken the vaccine, right? Because it affects them, The right wing's defining feature is they have no empathy for anyone that isn't in their tight-knit circle.
I also want to just get to how severe the situation is for those who do end up contracting the Delta variant of coronavirus and they happen to not be vaccinated. We're still focusing on Florida. Close to 17,000 people were hospitalized with COVID-19 across the state as of last Sunday, with the majority in South Florida. And of those patients, 53% of them were in the ICUs. So, Cenk, earlier you mentioned that, oh, they don't care if you die. And that's actually true, right? Because they're filling up these hospitals, they didn't have to be there. And what happens when the hospitals are overwhelmed with COVID patients? They don't have room for people who need to go to the hospital for other reasons. Oh, you got into a car accident or something and you need to go to the emergency room. You might need a hospital bed. You might need to go to the ICU. What happens if the hospital is overwhelmed and doesn't have space for you? These are the kinds of difficult decisions that are being made by these doctors, by these nurses in these hospitals. And they haven't gotten a break since the beginning of the pandemic at all. Day in, day out, they have to go into work and deal with something that they don't even need to deal with if people just did their part and got vaccinated. But no, let's instead have a conversation about these ridiculous, flimsy studies about ivermectin and how that might be a good preventative measure for coronavirus. Come on.
So the last two things here. We told you about this guy who was a Republican Party official in South Carolina and how he passed away. His family had put out a message saying, get a vaccine, but it turns out he hadn't. So I want to correct the record. Presley Stutz, and he on his deathbed was putting out, he didn't know it was his deathbed, he was still putting out fake messages. And he said, oh, coronavirus is a deadly bioweapon. And he's a big advocate against the vaccines, and he was a big believer in Lynn Wood. He voted for Lynn Wood. You remember that lunatic that said this election was stolen and wanted to be the head of the South Carolina Republican Party? And we told you a huge chunk of Republicans in South Carolina voted for him. Lynn Wood thinks he's a prophet. He's literally said that. The guy is mental by every definition. And this guy was like, yeah, Lynn Wood. He followed Lynn Wood right into off a cliff. And Lynn Wood then put out a statement saying, oh, he shouldn't have even gone into the hospitals. The hospitals are, quote, medical prisons. Good, don't go. Don't go, stay at home, see how that turns out for you. So anyway, and the last thing is they asked Florida voters, and 51% said that DeSantis, because remember the walkout of the doctors is happening in Florida, DeSantis cares more about running for president in 2024. Only 46% said they believe he cares more about the future of Florida. But honestly, that number is too high. 46% think he cares about the future of Florida. DeSantis couldn't care less about the future of Florida. God, people are amazing, man. Whether it's Fox News or CNN or MSNBC, they got you to believe that corporate politicians, corporate Republicans and corporate Democrats that take all that corporate donations, they care about you and the welfare of the people of Florida? Come on, man. Now, the funny thing is when you ask them about money in politics, 94% of the people in the same poll say, oh no, I hate the dark money and I want to get money out of politics. But they think, oh no, but the Republicans saying that DeSantis is okay and cares about Florida, they think, oh no, it's only the Democrats that are corrupt. My beloved DeSantis takes all this donor money and he's not at all corrupt. No, of course he is. And by the way, he believes in the vaccine. That's why he got it for his donors first. That was the first two scandals with DeSantis, that he got the vaccine right away to his top donors in Florida. And then for the rest of you, he tricked you into your own deaths and then you celebrate him. Well, enjoy. Thanks for watching The Young Turks, really appreciate it. Another way to show support is through YouTube memberships. You'll get to interact with us more. There's live chat emojis, badges. You've got emojis of me, Anna, John, JR. So those are super fun. But you also get playback of our exclusive member-only shows and specials right after they air. So all of that, all you gotta do is click that join button right underneath the video. Thank you.